The left is losing the battle on social media, but Occupy Democrats is taking it back. I'm Scott Ott with Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, and this episode of Right Angle is brought to you by the members at BillWhittle.com. Gentlemen, Omar and Rafael Rivero, 8 years ago, started an organization called Occupy Democrats at that same .com website because they believed that the Occupy Wall Street movement had no leaders and nobody in Congress, nobody in the White House, and so they wanted to essentially get organized and focused and actually get people into positions of power so that they could accomplish some of the things that everybody was lathered up about in Occupy Wall Street. What they've generated is some 9.9 million followers on their Facebook page for Occupy Democrats, and a lot of viral videos, including one that's rather amusing to the tune of The Lion Sleeps Tonight, called The Liar Tweets Tonight. I'll leave it to your imagination to guess what that's about. I don't think they produced the video. I think they just publicize it. But they are cranking out content. On a recent Sunday, they had some 80 posts to their Facebook page. They now have a total staff of some 7 people, and they're actually getting more interactions and more views than most of the leading candidates. They're running ahead of Donald Trump by some 25 million interactions on Facebook and ahead of Joe Biden's campaign by some 63 million. Stephen Green, it seems to me that the parties probably love people like this, specifically the Democrats, because these are just two guys running their own thing and they're not constrained the way the Democratic Party would be or the way the Biden campaign would be. They can be a little edgier, they can be a little tougher, and they can crank out a lot more content because they don't go through any layers of approval. Do you think this is the wave of the future, Steve? The New York Times wrote about these people.
You know, the way you phrased that question made me think of something I'd never considered before. You premise this on the idea that there are things the Democratic Party cannot say or do. There are things that their nominee, their alleged nominee, Joe Biden, cannot say or do. But these are the things that Donald Trump does, aren't they? Donald Trump goes on Twitter and he says things that no candidate had ever said before. And he does it as president as well. It's kind of notorious. I mean, that's why they got that whole liar tweets tonight thing. And, you get Trump on a Sunday morning when I'm just usually nursing a hangover and he doesn't even drink. And he's going off on a tweet storm on a Sunday morning. And it's a lot of fun to watch, or at least after the fact. I kind of collect these things for my other job at PJ Media. That said, why can't the GOP or the Democratic Party do these things? Why can't other candidates, why can't other office holders do and say these things? And this is very, very interesting to me. And it makes me realize, again, just how unique Trump is. Joe Biden tried one of these things yesterday, although he may have forgotten about it already by now. He referred to Donald Trump as President Tweeter. President Tweety. Yeah. President Tweety. And, Donald Trump kind of owns the name calling thing. I don't know if you remember this, but back during the 2016 nomination process, Marco Rubio, before I get to that, you watch Donald Trump steamroller over all other 16 Republican candidates, finally putting Ted Cruz out last of the line in April or May of 2016. But he just steamrolled through this huge field of candidates, and nobody could stop him. Nobody could figure out a way to judo his personal attacks, whether they were during the debates or on Twitter or whatever. Marco Rubio tried it. Do you remember he made some awkward, awful, poorly delivered small hands joke about Donald Trump? And not only could he not deliver the line, but he ended up having to apologize for it the next day or a couple of days after, however that went. Other candidates can't do these things. Other parties can't do these things, or the parties themselves can't do these things. Scott, you're absolutely right to premise it this way, and yet Donald Trump can. Is it because he's a booster, and boosters are allowed to say everything's great or everything's awful or this guy is the best or this guy is the worst because that's a booster's job. And to switch positions every 30 seconds, if that's what boosting requires, is it because he was such a successful reality TV show host and he doesn't just know where the buttons are and how to push them, but he also knows where the line is, where that invisible line is that he can cross and nobody else can? These are very interesting questions. I wish I had better answers for you, Scott. What I can tell you about these edgy guys on Facebook with their Occupy Democrats thing, I don't think anybody's ever changed a mind on Facebook. You can energize your existing base, and okay, if they're doing that, the GOP or some other candidates should figure out a way to take advantage in the same way. But I don't think they're going to change any minds or hearts or anything like that. I think what they're mostly doing is doing what everybody else does on Facebook, and that is like things and then forget about them.
Well, Bill Whittle, one of the missions that Occupy Democrats has this time around is to prove that Joe Biden can go viral. And the very premise of that is basically that nobody's excited about Joe Biden. There are two thoughts that I'd like you to address. One is that they said that one of the big mistakes in 2016 was that the Democrats didn't immediately embrace Hillary Clinton as a change agent and as someone to get excited about. And they hope to remedy that with the way they approach Joe Biden. And so there's that idea that you can take something. It's just the fact that they didn't embrace her. It's not that she wasn't a change agent or that she wasn't somebody to get excited about. It's that the Democrats didn't embrace her as such. And then the other is this concept of the right is winning the social media war. And they say, Omar Rivero says, we fight back with truth. We make sure that we punch them in the mouth with truth. Can you reconcile these two statements for me, Bill?
Well, first of all, this "we punch them in the mouth with truth" reminds me very much of that other fat, violent, progressive bastard. Forgotten his name. You know the
Michael Moore.
Tub. No.
Mussolini.
No.
Fat,
there you go.
Violent, progressive.
Yeah, you know the one.
I don't.
Anyway, look. First of all, the fact that they've got 9 million Facebook followers, many of them young, all of them progressive, is something that we should be paying attention to, because if they have 9 million young followers, that on election day, that could turn into scores, perhaps hundreds of actual votes. And that's something that we should all be deeply concerned about. The deeper issues are what he's basically saying is we needed to make Hillary Clinton into the agent of change. Not that Hillary Clinton was the agent of change, but we didn't manufacture her into that. The fact that this 30-year-old corporatist prostitute who has basically come back with $300 million somehow after a life of public service was not made into a revolutionary agent of change is a failure of the largest degree on the part of Occupy Democrats. And the fact that they didn't even nominate a person with human emotions may have contributed to this fact. If they can turn Joe Biden into a figure of sexy, alternative, aggressive change for the future, then they deserve to be put in charge of the Mars mission if they can pull that off. But they won't be able to, because he's not those things. Interesting, isn't it, really, how they feel that their motivation is twofold. So to address both sides of your question, first of all, we have to make people believe something that's not true. Hillary Clinton is not an agent of change. Hillary Clinton is an agent of the establishment. Joe Biden is not interesting or sexy, and no one has any excitement about Joe Biden. So the first part of their mission statement is we have to make people believe things that aren't true. And the second part of their mission statement is we've got to do it by punching people in the nose. And you know what this is? This kind of punching people in the nose thing is common among the left, because it gives them a sense, since progressivism is essentially populated by beta, gamma, and omega males and extremely angry and frustrated social justice warriors who are filled with rage but have no physical courage or the ability to act on anything. What this kind of language does is it makes them sound tough, makes them sound serious. I'm going to punch them in the nose. We're going to, and we get this from the Democratic candidate, actually, who's often said, I'm going to take Donald Trump out back and I'm going to go mano a mano and take him out to the tool shed and I'm going to beat him with a chain just the way I did Corn Pop back, those centuries ago. And Joe Biden's constantly doing this. Yeah, you disagree with me politically, Fats? Why don't we get down and do some push-ups, huh? Why don't we do that, huh? You're in my face, huh? What's the matter with you? They're violent children. And this is how violent children act. And this is what violent children want to do. They want to make you believe something that's not true because they like it, and they want to do it violently and childishly. Behold, 9 million followers on Facebook. That's certainly more followers than we have, but 90% of everything, probably 95% of everything is dreck. And I'd rather have the rational people who have some sense of decency and who do not need to be informed what the truth is and don't need to be convinced of how to think about their candidates. The people that appeal to this particular channel and Facebook page and all the rest are people who know how to make up their own minds. They just want to hear some information presented in a way that maybe they don't get it delivered by people like Occupy Democrats. They are the 99%. It's got right there on their Occupy Democrats Facebook page. We are the 99%. And they didn't have enough room on the rest of the placard to say that we are the 99% of the people who will not show up on Election Day.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think that Steve hit the nail on the head with this thing when he said that these social media efforts like Facebook rarely result in any kind of persuasion. And to me, it's fascinating as a former journalist that the New York Times found these guys to be significant. And I think they're a little jealous. I frankly think the New York Times looks at this and says, hey, look, they're targeting the same group that we are. Why is it that when they share something, they get millions of interactions and we get a handful of them? And frankly, I think the Democrats and the Biden campaign are probably a little jealous too, but it's redounding to their benefit. You know, it's getting something that the Biden campaign puts out a video and 3,000 people watch it, and then Occupy Democrats gets a hold of it and multiplies that effect and gets a lot more people to watch it. The problem I think that we face going forward in this republic is the fact that there's nobody trying to persuade anybody of anything. What they're really looking for is people that already agree with them, who will click that clickbait headline, who will, give them a thumbs up or send them a couple of bucks because you're saying what I already believe, and I want more people to hear that. Now, to a certain extent, that's what we do here. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. But I think you need to extend that ability by equipping each other, and our members do that on our website, but equipping each other to make the persuasive argument. I may be shouting in the wind about this because I know that this doesn't sell nearly as well as just insulting the other side, which is what Occupy Democrats seems focused on doing. But, there are always people who are persuadable in any group. And if Occupy Democrats focus their efforts on reaching, that's the sort of soft Republicans or the independents in ways that are winning, they might be even more successful but have smaller numbers of interactions on Facebook, but more significant ones. Because to me, if I get 10,000 people to like my Facebook post, that's fine. I'd rather have one person write to me and say, you know what, I used to believe the opposite of what you're saying. You have persuaded me. You've made your case. I'm with you now, and I want to advance this cause. And so I know I'll go to my grave wishing that we had a country like this. And maybe we never had a country like this. But at some point, it would be nice to be able to sit down with your ideological opponents and instead of making funny memes that insult them, be able to say, look, what is it that you believe? How does that differ from what I believe? Where is there common ground? And where are areas where maybe one of our sets of information are inadequate for the moment. How can we help each other to better understand? How can we grow and move forward as a country? I think that's what makes a country great, is your ability to continue to interact across the lines, not your ability to line up all the people who already agree with you and say, hey, look at me, I got a story in the New York Times. For Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks to the members at BillWhittle.com for making this possible.